Hello, I'm Tony, and welcome to the Tony Shap Show. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. This week, I have a special guest. His name is Dharmesh with Fullcast.io. I'm super grateful for his time. I know he's a super busy guy. So thanks very much for making time for us and the audience to learn more about you. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Tony.
Awesome. Thanks again. I'm super grateful. So I wanted to start off with, the top 10 with Tony. And my famous question when I open up with is, what's your one word open? Well, how would you describe in one word how you're feeling right now?
Like you said, gratitude. Uh, I'm grateful for what I do. I'm grateful for the people that I get to work with every day. And I'm grateful for everything that I've been given. So, uh, you know, uh, I'm pursuing what I like to do. And I feel blessed.
Wonderful. I love that. So let's start off with, how did you get in this business? How did you get started? And tell us more about at a high level what you do,
Yeah.
just for us to have a better understanding with Fullcast.io.
Yes. My background has largely been, a large enterprise. Spent about 17 years at Microsoft, another 4 years after that at Salesforce. My last 7 years at Microsoft, I was running business planning for Office 365, and then went into engineering of some aspects of Office 365. Landed up at Salesforce, and in 2013, right in the middle of or at the beginning of their annual planning cycle. My co-founder right now, he had worked with me at Microsoft. He's the guy that actually took me to Salesforce. Uh, and so both of us looked at the opportunity of how planning is done at large enterprises, how tedious the process is, and it's largely an Excel-driven um, process. And our view was, large scalable business processes cannot be done in Excel. It's just too much work, too complicated, too error prone. And so we thought about, we looked at options, and none were available. And so we decided to solve the problem ourselves, and essentially built Fullcast as a platform to streamline go-to-market planning for teams, and help them get the plan deployed. So cut down the time it takes to build a plan, and then really make it instantaneous to get the plan into action.
Wonderful. And would you be able to tell our listeners about one of your, your biggest wins that you've had recently, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I think the biggest win, I would say, apart from the customers who've trusted us, we are a really small team actually, all things considered actually, and we have some really large enterprises that take dependencies on us, and so we have a team of 9 people supporting about 15 or 16 large enterprises, and we're growing and signing up new customers. So the biggest win for me has been to have a team of people that can work independently. We are a team that's, like I told you earlier when you're chatting, spread within Seattle and San Francisco, and you're able to do that because we don't require a lot of close supervision of people. And I think that win is the ability to hire the right kind of people, uh, who can think independently, who can work independently, but for a collective purpose, right? I have worked in large companies, and I know manage teams, and I know how much of a time suck management of people can be, and getting them to do what you think and pushing towards a common vision. Not really easy. So for me, that is, I think, the biggest win.
Wonderful. How about, I know we don't like to talk about failure, but it's there. We all have to learn from it and move on. And it's what makes us sometimes, generally speaking. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about, one of your biggest failures and what you learned from that. That'd be wonderful too.
Absolutely. I mean, everything that we do, like the wins come because you've learned something on the failure side, and that corollary to that is I've failed in sort of anticipating some people early in the beginning when we were building the company, right? And it was how we were hiring people and how we were interviewing people and bringing them onto the team. And we realized quickly was that half an hour interview, just getting to know each other, and making a decision after three or four people have spoken is a disaster.
Mm.
Especially in a startup, because the startup has a lot of things are known, but a lot of things are unknown as well. And so you might be hiring a person and he can talk very nicely, and it's all things works, but when the rubber hits the road, is not able to live up to the values that you as a team are putting together. And I think we quickly found out how um, distracting that can be. And not only that, it can be, if it's not nipped in the bud on time, it can be quite toxic for the company, right?
Understood.
I think for us, we quickly realized was that the failure was, if you're going to hire people who do not align with the core values of your company, and the values are not just put on paper, that you have to live them, then it's a disaster.
Got it. Would you be able to go into telling our listeners more along the lines of what is your biggest business expense as of today?
People, people, getting the right set of people. I think, uh, like any company, right? Payroll is predictable, and payroll happens every month and on a clockwork, and so people become the biggest expense item. I mean, yeah, today's, dev cost, hosting costs are relatively cheap compared to what it used to be. So I think people become the number one asset and the number one cost center.
Totally. Human capital, right?
Yes.
It's a common one, and it is with a lot of leaders I speak to as well. So let's go into your favorite online business tool. What is that for you today?
I like Miro, actually. It's I noodle a lot. I think about frameworks in terms of like how do we spend time, and in terms of just orchestrating ourselves. And now the fact that we're all kind of locked up, working independently, and no more whiteboards, then it's all the more reason for something like a Miro to just brainstorm what you're going to talk, how you're going to talk, and push it out there. In fact, I was just talking to my team. Every Friday we have this stunning calls, and my partner was saying, "I miss our whiteboards." I'm like, "Yes, I know. We all miss our whiteboards."
Absolutely. I know the only whiteboard we have, to your point, the only whiteboard we have is on Zoom. We could, pull out your iPad, get your pen, and then
Exactly.
screen share that, a little bit of a, yeah, I know someone that's whiteboard is very important to him. And one of my closest friends, he's a great leader. And every time we have a meeting, when it used to be in the past face to face, I would always have a whiteboard ready for him. So I know how important that is, to all of us. Great. What about your client acquisition? What's your best source for acquiring new high value clients as of today in this market?
Yeah. So it's our outbound sales strategy that's working. That's and an investment in content. And so we tend to do webinars or fireside chats, and so that's been a good way for us to sort of find prospects who align with our point of view. Um, at this stage, we don't even think that everybody is going to be our customer. So it's like the classic crossing the chasm moment. So we are looking for early adopters who are visionaries, who are thinking ahead of the game, and so for us in outbound, it is a filtering exercise of really figuring out, is this person a fast follower or an early adopter? And so for us, that has worked well, and references from our existing customers, right?
Wonderful.
Every single customer of ours that has come in to date has largely been inbound, even though we're running an outbound campaign. But these are people who hear about us, they hear from their peers, and they'll say, "Hey, like, we want to talk to you." Right. So that's how it's been working. It's a balancing that what we call is seeding putting the seeds in the ground, and through content and thought leadership out there, which attracts people who think like us, and then they reach out to us and say, "Hey, can we talk?"
Well said.
Yeah.
I love it. Now let's go into the next thing. If you were me,
Yeah.
what is the one question that I should be asking you that I haven't yet, if any? So I would love to hear, what do you think is a question that I should be asking that I'm not asking?
Uh, I think you asked all the right question. The only piece that I would just say is uh, how do you keep a bunch of people together in a startup, right? Startups, by definition, are very fragile and hard work. A lot of grit, a lot of resilience, and then it's a hard job, like sort of keeping the flock together, sort of committed to the mission. So I think that would be one thing I would just dive deeper into, like how do you keep your team together? How do you focus and get people to focus on? But I think you picked up all the right questions. Actually, that those are the right, the most important ones.
Awesome. Thank you. And let our listeners know, as we're coming to a close here, let our listeners know how they could get a hold of you, however your preferred method of communication is, whether it's your email or a Twitter handle or your customer service or your website. Just let people know what your website is and how they can get a hold of you or to your team if they're interested in hearing more, or if they have questions for you. Please feel free to do that now.
Yeah, so I think LinkedIn is great. LinkedIn, Dharmesh Singh, or my email address, dharmesh@fullcast.io. It's pretty straightforward on that one. Those are the two best places, best ways to go. I mean, I'm on Twitter, but I'm generally more reading than tweeting. But I think the LinkedIn works really well, good for me.
Wonderful, thank you. And as we're at the close now, I'd love to hear your one-word close on how you're feeling right now compared to the beginning.
Same. I'm delighted and grateful for getting to meet you, actually.
Awesome.
Right? It's always, we're on the business of sort of dealing with people, and every new person that I meet, I'm grateful for you giving us this opportunity.
Same here. I'm equally as grateful. Well, there you have it, everyone. There's Dharmesh with Fullcast.io. We had the privilege of speaking with him today. It's been awesome, and thanks for sharing more about who you are, your story, your background, and what's important to you. So till next time, thanks everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you.
And there you go. I hope you enjoyed it, and great to have you, and thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode. Till next time, onwards and upwards.